Hey, good morning, everybody. Excuse me, I haven't talked much this morning. This is Carolyn Hauser-Carson, and I'm about to go live with my brand new training, which I'm very excited about. How to use pleasure to overcome self-imposed limitations. We're going to get started here in 2 minutes. I am actually streaming this on Zoom and then live here, so if you're catching it on Facebook, let me know where you're watching from. And if you're watching it as the replay, just put a hashtag replay. This is not going to be technically perfect because I want to show you a couple things and switch back and forth between my computer screen and this. So be patient with me. It shouldn't take very long. And as people are arriving and as we get started here, say hello and let me know how you're doing today. I'm just inviting a few people here. As we're waiting, just one more minute and then we will get started here. Just see a few more. Couple more moments here and then no, I can't go back. Come on, go back. I am done with tagging here. Okay, come on. Hey Elizabeth, good morning. Okay, so let me start the actual Zoom meeting and then I want to actually start with showing you something. So I'm going to turn my camera away from me in a minute. Hello, good morning everybody. This is Carolyn Hauser-Carson and I want to welcome you to my brand new training, How to Use Pleasure to Overcome Your Self-Imposed Limitations. And before we dive into the content today, I actually want to show you something. So I'm going to share my screen with you and then we'll dive in. And good morning, Jenny, and good morning, Sarah. So one moment while I switch gears here, share my screen with you. And set up what I want to show you. So let me see if this is working. We're almost ready. Okay.
Not enough. Not enough. Not enough. Not flexible enough. Not petite enough. Not feminine enough. Not feminine enough. Not feminine enough. Not normal enough. Not social enough. Not confident enough. Not skinny enough. Not light enough. Not strong enough, not beautiful enough, not ballerina-like enough, not talented enough. All my life I wanted to be a dancer and bring joy to the hearts of human beings. And this is what I was told. Directly, indirectly, or by my smaller self. Your body's not the right body. You're in your head too much. You're in your head too much, not in your body enough. You're in your head too much, not in your body enough. It took 40 years. So today I dance with you, with this body. Just the way it is, with my talents just the way they are, with my emotional sensitivity, with all all my emotions from within my heart, and with all the support I have, and with my ancestors and parents in my back.
So, self-imposed limitations. Instead of dancing with you all today, we're going to talk about self-imposed limitations. Let me just switch this off and stop my sharing. We're going to talk about self-imposed limitations and how to overcome them using pleasure. So before we dive into what I have prepared for today, let me just make sure that all of you are muted, because I think some of you aren't. One sec. Loving technology here. And if you're watching this, that's interesting. I'm much too silent. Okay, I'm gonna come closer. Let me see if you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? And I'm wondering, oh, everybody's not unmuted, okay. That's why I can hear you guys. Okay, now everybody should be muted. Let me see. Okay, everybody should be muted and we should be good to go, so that I can share what I want to share on how to use pleasure to overcome your self-imposed limitations. Because the only reason why you don't have the things that you want in life and have the lifestyle that you want are... I'm still so very quiet. Okay. One moment. Let's see if this is better. If you can tell me, if you can you hear me better now? Let me just see, and thanks for the feedback. How is it now? If somebody can tell me, that would be great. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello? Okay, better. Thank you. The reason why you don't have what you want is because of self-imposed limitations. And one of the ones that I had was that I'm not good enough to dance, for example, right? That's why I wanted to start with sharing that video with you. But before we dive into the content today, I just want to make sure that you know that you're in the right place today. So this training is for you if you know that you came here to really have a great life experience, including completely fulfilling your purpose while not running yourself ragged, right? I believe that we came here to have the best life experience possible, and to me that comes from completely fulfilling the purpose, having amazing relationships, living in a place and with things that make you feel good and everything, right? So this is for you. Even if you already have a level of success, but you're just really working too hard this is especially for you. If you have done all the right things, if you have delegated, if you have team in place, if you have worked on yourself, and yet you still not seem to be able to free up time for you and your creative projects, when it seems like the things that you want, your self-care, time for yoga and walks, that's nice, but also on top of that, the time for yourself to really follow your soul and live a life that feels, to the way I call it is, sacred and inspired and like the goddess self, your creative self, how you know in your bones it would be right for you, and right now you're feeling the dissonance because your reality is that your plate is much too full and you don't have time to enjoy your life. You might have the money, but you don't have the time to enjoy, or it seems like you don't have the time to enjoy all the things. So if this is you, you're in the right place today. You're also in the right place if you know that there's an easier way, that you don't have to push. You want to stop pushing. It's for you if you already feel that you're going towards burnout, or if you're having symptoms of burnout, if you're feeling exhausted in those things, and especially also if you feel you're starting to suffer from cognitive overload, if things are slipping, if things are too much, if you're overwhelmed, all those things, this will be very helpful for you today. And so today we're going to talk about the two things that will help you overcome self-imposed limitations. We'll also talk about how you're going to be able to really shift into a life where you do have time to be creative without having to sacrifice your current level of success, without losing money, without making less money. And in most of my clients' cases, when they shift, they actually start working less and at least maintain or make more money with much less effort, just through these principles that I'm going to share with you today. And in my own life, I'm going to share my story with you in just a moment. It was very much the same. The success did not come through hard work. It came through discipline, being disciplined, and working with these principles, and being courageous, and doing things differently, but not through pushing and being in the masculine and hardworking. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Carolyn Hauser Carson. Hey Tara, hey Angela. And I'm one of the world-leading experts in family constellations. My unique brilliance is that I shift energy. I teach people how to shift energy, and I educate people about their own energy and help them shift their own energy. And my proprietary signature system is called the PleasureIQ, which we'll be talking about today as well. And the PleasureIQ really came about, or the principles in the PleasureIQ came about through my own awakening. So for me, I've been someone who basically took in self-imposed limitations with my mother's milk. When we go back in my ancestral lineage, my grandparents had it very hard. I'm from Germany originally, and they were living what was Yugoslavia at the time, so near the Hungarian border, Austria-Hungarian, that area. It's now Serbia and Croatia. And they were German living there and were persecuted at the end of World War II. So my mom was still born there, and when she was 2, they had to flee, and my mom was actually born in somewhat of a concentration camp. My grandparents had been in an internment camp because they were Germans there and they were not welcome. So they were in a camp for 10 years there. So, those were the circumstances that my mother was born under. And then she was separated from her parents because when they went back to Germany, they had to go to refugee camps, and the genders, so men and women, were separated, and the children, my mom went to her aunt and uncle. So for me, that's just one side of the family, right? That's what I breathed in when I was born. And then very early on, I gave away my own power and created self-imposed limitations through not speaking up when my grandfather started sexually molesting me. And then later in my life, not much later, but when I was 10, I started battling eating disorders and gave away my power and basically limited myself or suffered under those limitations for almost 10 years. And at that time, when you suffer from eating disorders for more than 8 years, so up to the 10-year mark, my chances of recovery were at 5% at that time, so very slim. And I had made peace with probably never having a normal life. To me, what I wanted at that point was just to be able to have a relationship, get married, and have children. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to have a normal life, which I had not been able to live. My teenage years were hell. So fast forward, I was able to overcome the eating disorders through family constellations, which I will talk about a little bit later on. I was able to have children. I had my daughter and my son. And after my son had been born, things were much better, obviously. I wasn't battling the eating disorders. I wasn't battling... I wasn't having that much struggle, but I was still experiencing a lot of lack. We had to file for bankruptcy. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue and burnout, and I wasn't making any money. Up until that point, I had been doing all kinds of odd jobs. I'd never made more than, at the most, maybe $17.50 an hour. So I had to work very hard to make any kind of money. And my wake up, or the breakthrough moment around pleasure, really came one night when my husband at the time came home from work, and I had been home with the kids and barely able to get off the couch and change Nuri's diaper. He was 17 months at the time. And, you know, when they're 17 months, if you've had little kids, you know, they just climb everywhere, and it's crazy. They have so much energy, and I had none. And so he came home, and I said to him, I just can't do this anymore. And he didn't mean for anything bad, but he was completely overwhelmed himself, and just responded to me in normal kind of not thinking kind of way. Well, you wanted to be a mother. And when he said that, to me, something just snapped inside of me, and I literally collapsed. My body fell onto the floor. My soul and my spirit were hovering under the ceiling. Was in a different place. Was not in a tropical place. It was in a dumpy one-bedroom apartment in the slums of Santa Barbara. And my kids were on top of me. They didn't understand what was going on. They were crying, and I was hovering under the ceiling, looking down. And even seeing them in so much despair didn't make me come back. And it was scary. For any of you that are mothers and love their children, I love my children, very much. It was very scary. But then something happened. A voice, an inner inkling said, Carolyn, your work wasn't done. And with that, I was sent back into my body. And for 5 days, I was suspended in a complete state of clarity. And in that clarity, I could see, it was a musical experience. Anytime I would allow negativity or would say yes to things that weren't right and good for me, it was almost like the orchestra that I was listening to would go out of tune, and it was like excruciating. It was like, like screeching. So I would just not go there. I would just stay in a space where I would be very positive, basically. And so during those 5 days, I saw that everything that we want is truly here. It's not just a stupid saying. It's not just what people that teach about spiritual law say. It is literally so. And back at the time, I knew a little bit about spiritual law, but not that much. I've studied up since and made sense of it so I can explain it better, which I will do to you and share with you in just a little bit. But to get back to the story, I basically realized that if I went into pursuit of pleasure, and also, God or whoever was talking to me, Spirit was saying, you have to go into pursuit of pleasure. You have to learn, and you have to see why you're doing the things that you're doing that have gotten you into such a space of self-sacrificing where nothing was left of you. And so the pleasure is the antidote. Following what's right and good is the antidote. And if it was that easy, everybody would do it. And we'll talk about today why it is that it isn't easy and what you can do to make it easier for yourself. So fast forward, obviously I had to make some drastic changes in order to shift my life, but it shifted very quickly, and I really started implementing this, following what felt right and good. And with that, I had to make decisions like leaving my first marriage, which I knew it wasn't a true soulmate and passionate love connection. We were great and we were compatible, and we have 2 beautiful children, and I think that was the purpose of our relationship. But I had denied myself to truly, basically because I don't think I've shared the story. So when I met Daniel, my first husband, I had just been broken up with by somebody, and I had this inner voice in my head saying, hey, what are you doing, getting involved with somebody right now? You really shouldn't. And I kind of tossed the voice to the side and got involved with Daniel anyway and got pregnant right away. And so I felt, for the longest time, I brought it onto myself, and basically felt like I truly had an arranged marriage that was arranged by myself for that reason. I kind of punished myself for not listening to that small voice for a long time, and didn't allow myself to really want what I wanted, which was be with my true soulmate. So fast forward, I left my first marriage. I started my business. I've since met Paul, who is my true divine partner and soulmate. We have bought this house here in the Caribbean where I'm living now full time. I've served over 5,000 people. My health is in a really great shape, and my company has generated close to $750,000 in revenue, all while I keep working, for 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. So, and obviously these are not just my results, but I have many clients that have created similar or even better results, and I'll share some of those stories with you as we get along here. So this stuff works, and it's proven, and it's tested. So let me just look at my notes real quick, and then we will dive into what self-imposed limitations really are, and how to use pleasure to overcome them. So in my book, and you can grab something to write actually right now if you like. I'll give you a moment. What I've come to understand is that self-imposed limitations, or when we talk about our patterns or our negative belief systems and so forth, it implies that it's something that we do to ourselves consciously, and that is not the case. Oftentimes, they are things that we've inherited or, sponged up as little children, and they are below the surface. They're not conscious. If they were conscious, it would be easy for us to change them. But since they're not conscious, it's harder for us to change. And the way I look at the universe and us and everything, or not the way I just look at it, but the truth is that everything in the universe is energy. And so self-imposed limitations, patterns, negative belief systems, whatever you want to call them, to me they're all the same. They are negative, energetic, emotional imprints on your nervous system. So basically, that to me, and the way that I work simplifies everything, because it's really not so much about working with your conscious faculties and with psychology or mental stuff. It's really about changing your energy frequency. If you want to look at it this way, the negative imprints, the things that you call self-imposed limitations, patterns, and so forth, they kind of make you heavier and lower vibrational. And so in order for you to have the life that you want, in a very simplified way, all you need to do, right? It's not that easy, but really, what needs to happen is you need to become lighter and of higher vibration. Now, since these things are below our consciousness, for the most part, I don't want to say in general, but for a lot of these things, we really cannot do them by ourselves. We do need somebody else's help. It's the same as if you had knee problems. Even if you were a knee surgeon and you knew exactly what to do, you would not operate on yourself, right? You would go to somebody else and get help. So the two things that I really want you to take away around self-imposed limitations is that, first of all, they are not really self-imposed. They are negative energetic imprints. There are things that you can do yourself, which I will share with you, and then also in some cases for things that you have been trying to get over, where you have knocked your head against the wall for ages. You know, we all know what those things are, right? Wouldn't it feel better to just get help and have them removed, right? That's following what feels better, implementing the PleasureIQ principles. So I want to share something with you, and let me just see for you guys on Facebook. Let me see how I can do this. I might have to post this later on my computer screen. I can share this. I'm going to share my screen again. 1 second, if I can figure it out. Share my screen. Share screen. Might look a little messy because there's sort of several things on my screen. Let me see if you do this. It might be a little wobbly because I'm holding it now. So this is kind of, well, it's a infogram that I've come up with to explain energetic levels and why pleasure is the key. Let me just see if I can put this back on my little, sorry for the wobbliness on Facebook. Whoops. I'm just going to put this back on my tripod if it wants to stand, and then I don't have to hold it. So everything is energy, and the potentiality of your life is like a 6-story house. Every level represents 100 in frequency. So the first level would be 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. 600 is what I call your paradise. When you live at a level of 600, your life experience is one of flow, ease. You feel fulfilled. You feel happy. You're in great health. Everything flows. Right? That's where we want to be. Everything above 600, our body would dissolve and we would just become light beings, which we will do when we leave this plane, but not right now. Most of us and most of you watching were probably 300, 400 level. And then people that are really, really struggling, like when I was really sick, I was probably down in the basement here around 100 and 200. 200 is the level of courage. Everything below 200 is life-destroying. Everything above 200, and these are vibrational levels, is life-giving. Now, here's where pleasure comes in. Pleasure, this is you, by the way. Pleasure is an indicator. It shows you whether you are moving closer to being in your paradise or away from being in your. So if things don't feel good, chances are you are out of alignment. You're not aligned with your paradise and your fulfillment of your true potential. You're going somewhere where it's not in alignment, and it could be through decisions or through things that you're thinking, through things that you're eating, people that you're surrounding yourself. So anytime things don't feel good, not in kind of a fluffy, I'm not talking about not leaving your comfort zone, but in terms of like feeling right and good in your soul and in your bones, basically. Anytime that you're feeling really bad, it means you're just not in alignment. You have made decisions, or you're bought into belief system that is not leading you to being in your paradise. So the thing that you can do now in order to start having it easier in your life, so I just want to make sure that you're getting this. In order to release negative patterns and overcome these imprints and drop self-imposed limitations, the thing that you can do is say yes to the things that feel right. And this is actually something that I learned from David Nagel. He said that God gave us a seed in our soul, and the seed basically knows what this looks like. The seed knows exactly. There's part in you, in your subconscious, that knows exactly what your ideal scenario looks like. And then you have all the subconscious crap that's usually pulling you stronger, right? And that's overrides the feeling of, oh, I know what's right for me. So what we can do in our own power is we can allow ourselves to focus on that God seed, on the things that we know that are right for us, and say yes to them. And we can do that by being in our body. Our body, your body, always knows the truth. So what it requires is to really learn throughout your day to, and you can start practicing this with food and little things, to tune into yourself and be self-directed, right? To stop being directed from outer things and really start being directed from your inner self. And learn what it feels like when you have a yes in your body. This is also the key to getting your brain out of overwhelm and overdrive, right? The reason why you feel overwhelmed is not because there's so many things. I know it makes it seem like that. It's because you function out of a smaller part of your brain, the fight or flight, the reptilian brain, which cannot deal with complex situations, can only deal with survival. And by focusing on coming back to your body, you can switch the brain off and basically have access to your higher brain, which then also allows you to really actually feel into what feels good and make those decisions. So I wanted to share a couple success stories with you. Let me see if I can pull them up. And it's a little messy on my screen, I think. So one of my clients, Kim, when she came to me, she was very overwhelmed. She had all kinds of. She came from a career in politics where you work your butts off and just work like crazy. And so when we worked together, we really helped shift some of her negative imprints, which were mostly around men in her life and how she had been treated and how masculine support showed up in her life. And so once we shifted that, her life really turned around very quickly, and she's now running at least $1 million ad agency where she is in the driver's seat and has a lot of people that support her and help her, with the work that she's doing. And then Letitia, who actually lives down the road from where I live now. She's become a good friend. When she first came to me, they had just built a boutique, retreat, hotel kind of a business, and they had worked nonstop for 8 years with her first child on her hip all day long. And she was really afraid. They sold their business and had made over $1 million, and she was really afraid to lose that money. So she didn't know what to do kind of for work. She didn't want to go back to working hard, and she didn't want to lose the money that they had made. So she really needed to find a way to have an income stream, but without being a workaholic and working herself into the grave. And in a very short amount of time, they were able to actually find this property here that was close to our house. Were able to find investment opportunities. So essentially, they were able to make money in a very different kind of a way with a lot more ease. And it allowed her to have a second baby, to spend the first year with that baby, not on her hip working, but at home on the ocean front, looking at the ocean and traveling through South America with all of them. And also really rekindling her relationship with her husband, because when you work so hard, it's kind of hard to also still have juice and fun for your relationship and have anything left, right? So their relationship has completely transformed as well. So let me come back to you so I can see you. So if it was this easy to just follow your pleasure, why aren't we doing it, right? Why aren't we doing it? And if you could let me know if what I've shared so far is helpful and makes sense, and I'm happy to share the infograph later in this thread on Facebook, and also to everybody who's here, I'll send an email if I can figure out how, and send you that as an email, so you can have it. why don't we do it? Well, so what I found is there's 4 things why we don't do it, and that's really the basis in what I do when I work with people. The first of them is guilt, subconscious shame and guilt. Guilt is very hard to spot and very hard to get rid of because it's actually not a real feeling. It's a very sneaky mechanism that keeps specifically women. I find women suffer from guilt way more than men. Keep us playing small and putting ourselves last, in not asking our team to do the things that they need to do, not taking time for ourselves, and so forth. And so really the first thing that I work on with people is to look where this guilt comes from, and it's different for everybody. Like I said, a lot of these things are inherited from your ancestors, and you don't even know, right? We don't even know where they come from. And so family constellations are the process that I use. Family constellations is a process that can make subconscious things visible. In the beginning, I shared with you that it's impossible for us to see or know what really these negative imprints in our subconscious are. And so the beautiful thing is there is modalities like family constellations that can make the subconscious visible, and a skilled facilitator will also know then what to do with it and transform it so that you can be free. The subconscious subconscious filters and makes us create our reality based on the images that we're holding. So if you're holding a limiting image around money in your subconsciousness, the subconscious will recreate that because that's what feels safe to it. Now, family constellations, just to explain it in a very nutshell, what family constellations does is it takes out that image and it replaces it with a healthy image, so that then your subconscious goes to work to create that for yourself. And that's where the ease comes from, right? It doesn't come because you're consciously changing and you're working on something, but because the image in your subconscious has been replaced, and your subconscious always goes to work matching the image that you're holding. And by matching, I mean creating the outer reality to match the inner image that you're holding. Right, so it's very, very powerful. When I was struggling with the eating disorders, I had one constellation session, took 45 minutes, and within 6 months I was completely healed. I went to the seminar and I forgot about it, didn't expect much, and I thought I was all of a sudden able to not go to the store and binge, and then like a year later I was like, hold on a minute, I wasn't able to do that before, why would I be able to do that now? And then I started realizing, I went and had this constellation done. And really, since then, I've been able to do these things differently, and everything has shifted. And when that clicked, that's when I started really learning about constellations. So I've been doing them for 20 years. That's why I'm so good at them now, because I've done them so long and so many people. So family constellations are very helpful in terms of replacing subconscious shame and guilt. And then also the second reason why it's not easy for us to just say yes to the things that feel good to us is we're not in harmony within ourselves. And the 2 aspects that are in conflict the most are our feminine and our masculine. And so oftentimes it has to do with our parental imprints, but also with the lineages that we come from, again, right? Our ancestral lineages. And so when the second thing that I work on with people is integrating the feminine and masculine, again, it looks different for everybody. For some people, the work that we do is all in the feminine lineage, connecting the feminine lineage, because in the constellation world, we know that when you are connected to your ancestors, to your feminine lineage and to your masculine lineage, so when you have your ancestors starting with your parents in your back, you actually will have a life experience of flow. So in other words, that will help you live in the paradise and on the sixth floor, so to speak. So it's super, super important to do that work so that you can be in harmony with yourself. And then the third thing that I work on with people is the reconnection to core creative sexual power. This doesn't necessarily have to do with sexual trauma healing. It can. When it does, it's not necessary to relive the trauma or to get thrown back into depression and overwhelm and so forth from the memories and so forth. It's really about helping you to connect to that part of you, which is your creative power. Sexual energy is creative power, right? A baby is made out of the sexual creative power of two people, the masculine and the feminine. So again, the masculine and the feminine are really important. And it's really private to you, and it has nothing to do with having sex with other people, or if you can have an orgasm or those things. It really has to do with you and your own native life force and energy. And a few years back, I was initiated into the energy of Pele, which is the Hawaiian goddess of creation. So I actually, when I work with people, I pass that on, that activation. And what I've also learned is that our nervous system, our energy system, right? Our nervous system basically determines at what frequency we vibrate. It's our energy system. And so the negative imprints are in our nervous system. And our nervous system, over the last thousands of years, has been diminished to run on very much less energy than it's capable of. I believe that Jesus was able to perform miracles, and performing miracles just meant he could shift his perception and see how things fit together and how he could make things work. He didn't pull things out of thin air. He just had the right ideas at the right time and made the right connections. And you can do that too when your brain functions at the right level. You've probably all had experiences like that. But so I believe that Jesus knew of this, and that his nervous system was really able to hold a lot of high vibration energy. I also believe that he and Mary Magdalene knew of the power of using their creative sexual energy and their love for each other to vibrate at that high level. And I also believe that in your nervous system, in my nervous system, in all of our nervous system, it is still the wiring is still there. It's just been dormant, right? So when I work with people, we work on helping your body remember, so that it starts allowing and feeling comfortable with running these higher amounts of energy. The time problem that you're experiencing is really not a time problem. It's a brain overload problem, and it's an energy problem. When you have a ton of energy, you can get stuff done in a day that others don't get done in a year. And I'm also sure that you've had this experience, and it really, really has nothing to do with the demands on your schedule, with what people want from you. It has to do with your ability to be at a high vibration and just being laser focused and you making the connection and doing the things that need to get done and seeing how they can get done. So a lot of this becomes really magical and fun, especially when you're starting to vibrate at a higher level. And then what's obviously really important is once you have worked on releasing the negative imprints, that you learn and really make your energy management a top priority. And there's certain things that are the same for everybody, and then there's certain things that you will have to find for yourself and your body that are requirements for you so that you can operate at the highest level, right? I mean, generally, it's good for everybody to exercise, to have rest time, to have time with your loved ones, to eat well, and so forth, right? And then it's also very individual, because what the form of exercise that feels good to me might not feel good to you, right? And so forth. And the thing that feeds my soul might not feed your soul. But what's important is that you make your energy management and staying in a high vibrational space a top priority. So if any of what hey Claudia, good to see you. If any of what I've shared with you is of interest to you, and if you'd like to talk with me so I can look at your situation and give you some kind of an idea what I think might be holding you back in terms of your ancestral stuff or stuff from this lifetime, and then also show you what's possible for you. Because when I start working with people, I always start by actually doing a reading, since one of my gifts is to read energy and to tap into energy. I can actually tap into the paradise for people and see the things that are in alignment for you and the things that are not in alignment for you. And oftentimes that gives you a really concrete plan on what you have to let go and what you should really focus on in terms of direction for your business, for your life, relationships, health, and so forth. So that's actually really a starting off point. So if you would like to talk with me, I'm going to put a link into the chat box. I'm not quite done yet, but I just wanted to put that there in case. And it's also posted on Facebook and the live on top of the description. Let me just move you guys on Facebook over 1 second so I can share in the chat. So it's basically the URL to talk to me is a bit link. Let me just read it to you. It's bit.ly talk to Carolyn, and Carolyn is with a C and no E at the end. Talk to Carolin. bit.ly dash or whatever that thing is called. Talk to Carolyn, Carolin, and I've spaced this week to talk to as many people as want to talk to me. Obviously, I'm very excited about this because, like I said, it really shifted and changed my life completely, and it's doing so for the people that I work with. And I actually do have a little time for questions. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, or I think you can post them on Facebook Live. And then I also wanted to make sure that I really left you with the understanding that, out on Facebook and in the online world, there's many people that want to make you believe that it's just another strategy, or it's just another system, or it's just another something outside of yourself that will help you really live your true full potential and have the lifestyle that you want, where you have time, where you're not run down, where you have time to be with your family, your loved one, where you have a relationship with your husband, where your husband isn't wondering if he's ever going to see you again, and so forth. That is totally possible for you, but what needs to happen is, we don't have control over outer circumstances. We don't have control necessary over other people, but we do have control over our own energy management. And what you do have control over is making your energetic state a top priority. So if you've been hitting your head against the wall for a long time with certain patterns and they're not shifting, get help. You can't, we can't do this on our own. I hire people when I'm stuck and when things aren't moving. I hire people that know how to do constellations or energy work, and I work with them myself too. I'm doing the exact same that I'm sharing with you. So here's a question. 1 second. What prompted me? That's a really great question. What prompted me to move to the Caribbean? Well, when I was sick with chronic fatigue and laying on my couch, a really funny thing happened, and that was I just kept fantasizing about living in a house that had this kind of a roof, and there was a lot of tropical nature. And I had never been to the tropics, and I didn't even know, I know now that they're called palapas, but I didn't know what they were called. So when I was really sick, I was just fantasizing. My body just really wanted to live in a different kind of a space. I mean, I couldn't even live, I couldn't even drive. I couldn't go to the store. Going to Whole Foods was completely overwhelming. It took me a long time before I could go to the store and not feel overwhelmed and completely like, oh my God, this is too much. So my body was just really longing for a much simpler lifestyle. And then when Paul and I got together, I shared with him, that I really would, I had said to the universe, either my soulmate is going to show up or I'm going to go to Bali. And I had already arranged everything. I put my stuff in storage, and I had booked the school for the kids in Bali, and then Paul showed up, luckily. So he knew that I was kind of wanting to explore some tropical places. And he said, oh, why don't we go to the Mayan Riviera? And I had no idea. I had no idea what it was. I thought it was Mexico, and I really didn't have an affinity for Mexico. So we went, and it turns out it's the Caribbean. It's tropical. And we came here to this little place, and my body just went, oh, it feels so good here. And then this house became available, and everything was just really easy. To buy this house is my first house that I own. It took me an hour and a half of paperwork, and half of it Paul did. I just had to basically fill out my information. We're able to buy it cash. We own it. So it just felt right around like the perfect alignment for me and the perfect thing to do. And it took me a little while to get here because I have children and they were in school and they weren't necessarily as excited to come here as I am. And one of them still isn't excited to be here. So I'm dealing with that. But I am very, and Paul isn't living here full time yet because his business is in California. He doesn't have a virtual business like me. But we're working together, and it's good. It's been really good. So thanks for that question. So and it's a really good question because it's a really good example what following what feels right and good to you entails, because I had to actually, I had a lot of fear that my relationship with Paul wouldn't last if I do this. So when I was leaving in August, I had tremendous, fear, and I mean, it's not been easy because, obviously we love each other very much, and having a long distance relationship is tricky. And, but I have enough experience to know that when I follow what feels really true for me, it will work out in the end. And so I just keep reminding myself, and now that I've been here 2.5 months and things are settling and I found my rhythm and so forth, things are really good. So thanks for the question. That was my answer. So following what feels right and good to you does bring challenges, and it takes a lot of courage and bravery. But when you do follow it, you will be rewarded. And because when you don't follow what feels right and good, you keep staying out of alignment, and that saps energy from you. When you're in alignment, things feel good and right, and there's no more conflict, and you can operate at a much different level, right? So any other questions? Let me see. Somebody said something about human design. I do not know about human design. I haven't studied human design. I know there's other people that really use it. I know what I am. I'm a manifesting generator, but that's pretty much all I know. So I cannot speak to that. The things that I'm sharing are things that I have basically intuitively been given and applied in my life, and then afterwards gone to the people that have been doing this for longer and try to make sense. So some of the people that I've learned from are, and he's no longer alive, is Dr. David Hawkins. He talks a lot about energy levels, and he came up with the scale of consciousness and so forth. And when I met Paul was actually the one introducing me, and Paul had been studying one book, that's Power versus Force, for 5 years. He's been reading this book every night, line by line, to understand it. And so it's a very dense book, and I would not have been able to read it. But because Paul had assimilated it over 5 years, he could explain it to me, and it just explained the things that I had figured out. And so being with Paul really has helped me a lot, understanding and what he's bringing, in his understanding of universal laws. And then another resource that I've used is also Kevin Trudeau. Even though he's has gotten bad press, I'm very much influenced by him and his teachings on energy and really following what feels good. And his stuff is on YouTube. You can check it out. It's called Your Wish is Your Command. So somebody's asking, Paul was supportive. Well, he wasn't happy for me leaving, but he's supportive of me following my dream, and it is his dream to live here with me too. It was just the timing, the kids had to go to school at some point, and September is when school starts, and I needed them to go to school also. So there's days where he isn't happy that I'm there, and then there's days, we're all humans, but overall, yes, we made this decision together. I just said, this is what I want to do, and then and together with Daniel too, because I have 50-50 custody. I couldn't have left the States without him, so he's here too. So we as the adults actually got together and talked and made this decision together. And then the consensus was that I would go ahead with the kids first, and that the guys would come, and Daniel was able to come already, and Paul is working. He's going to be here soon for an extended period of time, and then he'll have to go back. And I've been traveling back and forth, and I'm using traveling back and forth to do my talks and so forth. So, which is part of my, my coming dream life, is really to travel and talk and give this talk live and do my dance performance live and do a TED talk with doing the dance performance live and so forth. Okay, lovely to hear the birds in the background. Can you talk a bit more about how you'd work with us in this process? Yes, so the first thing that I would do with you is actually step into your paradise through family constellations. And that's a one-on-one thing where it's different for everybody, right? For some people, you're already super aligned on your business and other pieces aren't aligned. Or there's things that you aren't even aware of that you need to add and bring in to your business or life. For people that are single, I will step into your soulmate and tell you who it is and what you need to do to be with him. If you're not having the right clients, I will help you line up the right clients and tell you who they are and how to reach them. If there's other opportunities that are circling around that you've been thinking of but kind of not said yes to, if I will confirm them for you and help you see the way. Part of what it does is I can give you the direct way of how to do things because I can see the energetic connections. So that's how we start, and then the rest is really helping you. I do the work for you. I do the constellations, remove the negative energy, and then also teaching you how you can keep yourself in a high vibrational state. So it's these three aspects. I do the energy work for you. I teach you what you can do yourself to stay high, and I help you stay in alignment and make the right decisions and give you confirmation. So you have my intuitive guidance too. Does that answer your question, Zoe? Let me know. What has been the biggest lesson for me? So the biggest lesson for me really came right after I had gotten off the couch and gotten a little better. I took a course with Gina DeVee and Rose Cole at the time, and they had us make a circle and divide it up in kind of like a wheel of life in life coaching. And they gave us options what to name these different slices of our oranges. But they also said we could come up with our own ones, and it was homework to kind of fill them in and fill in how good we felt about these different areas. And I chose, the regular ones: health, business, money, relationship, and so forth. Not thinking much about it. And then I came back to the next group call, and there were women that had actually a slice for pleasure on their orange, and I had none. That didn't even occur to me to put make space in my life for pleasure. So that was really the biggest lesson, and it's still the biggest lesson, is to see how quickly I say yes to things that don't bring me pleasure, or do things for other people and not do the things that I truly want. And in connection with that, in my relationship with Paul, my biggest lesson in learning really is that I can have what I want. I don't need to manipulate. I don't need to talk around it. I don't need to be about the bush. I don't need to hint. I don't need to, not be honest and things like that. I can actually just directly say what it is that I want. I can take the time to become clear about what I want, and I can actually have what I want. And the best tool that keeps me grounded for me, it's nature. So I live 100 steps from the Caribbean beach right now. So that's what I do. I spend at least a half an hour going to the beach, feet in the sand, sun on my body, and in the water, swimming like a dolphin. Good question. And so Carla, you're saying you're still missing the soulmate. Yeah, because, the reading is one thing, and then aligning yourself and really getting help with releasing the negative imprints, it's part of the process. Right now, just knowing what your ideal paradise isn't enough. You have to become an energetic frequency match to that reality. And like I said, there's things that you can do on your own. And then there's things that you, me, nobody just can do, releasing the ancestral stuff and the shame and the guilt and so forth. We do need help. So it's just a matter of when you're going to allow yourself to have that. And so it's saying, that sounds great. Good. Any other questions? Let me see if there's questions on the Facebook Live. I don't know if I can actually see comments. I might have to go back on Facebook Live and answer your comments when I'm done here. So just seeing if there's any other questions. everybody, really thanks for spending time with me and letting me share this. I hope this inspires you to start making pleasure your top priority, and it also inspires you to really know that you can have what you want. Big hug to you too, Carla. The other thing I wanted to give to you too is just know that if you have a desire for something, that something is here. That's a spiritual law. It's the law of polarity that states nothing in the universe was created half. And desire and fulfillment are just two ends. You know, it's the having of something and the not having of something. And in between there's a line. Hey Kimmy, I'm very glad you called me too. So, you wanting something, and this something has to be there. Right, so don't give up. Just keep working on your energy, and I promise you will end up in your paradise, and you have the things that you want. And it's an ongoing journey, and it keeps expanding. Life keeps expanding and getting better and better. Okay, there's another question. Is the work you're doing the same as last couple of years with PleasureIQ with even more experience now? Yes. So I've been teaching the PleasureIQ principles now for 2.5, 3 years almost, and with a lot of people, almost 500 people. And I've also, kept implementing them in my life. And so yes, I'm actually teaching it in a different format. I'm delivering it in a different format. I have really kind of found the ways that are serving you the most. Right, when I first started, it was kind of my idea and what I thought would be good. And now 2.5 years later, I have more experience around what's really serving and you as my clients. Yes, it's a great question. Hi, Kathy. Good to see you. Any other questions? It is noon, so I was planning to do this for an hour. Hey, Iya. Nice to see you. If you're just joining now, we're kind of at the end, but this was a really good training, so I encourage you to just go back and watch it once I post it, which is any minute now. Okay, any other questions? I'll just share the link with you again if you want to talk with me and, hear what this would look like if we did this together. Let me know and I'll reach out to you and we'll find a time that would work for both of us. Okay, so with that, thanks for joining me. I had a great time being here with you. I hope this was helpful. All my love to you and many blessings. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.